Hello, everybody. This is the Chile Magic Podcast brought to you by Impact Africa Network. This week, we have the honor and privilege of having one of the, entrepreneurs, technologists, citizens who I have come to respect and appreciate in our ecosystem, Mr. Huston Malande.
High praise.
No, man, but it's well deserved, I believe. The thing that stood out to me in the few times that we've interacted has been really your three things, I would say, and they kind of overlap with our own cultural values as an organization or me as an individual. And these are the three things are high performance, high integrity, and high collaboration. And just from what I've heard about you and kind of the work you do, your reputation precedes you in terms of you do great work, and that's why you had the success you had, obviously. So that high performance.
Yeah.
The other one is just the integrity. Like you everything you have said, you have done, and it's in the small things that you know who you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And as you and I know, integrity is kind of like a very malleable concept in our ecosystem. Right?
Yeah.
People, it's a thing about convenience.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, and then the collaboration. Just always being available. We've just. You're here today, right? And those are the things, in my view, that make an ecosystem work, especially in the tech space, right? So, with that said, I will let you tell us, a little bit about, first of all, Skyline Design is your company. You're the CEO and founder of Skyline Design, and co-founder, and you have a few people that you work with on this. Yeah. But tell us what Skyline Design is and what you guys do.
So, Skyline Design was kind of born out of necessity. There used to be this gap year between high school and university where you take 2 years out. I don't know why the system was set up that way back then, but it's just something that I'm really grateful for looking back, which I'm sad that a lot of kids nowadays don't have that chance. Like, you just go straight from high school into university without really discovering yourself during that transition period where everything is controlled, and you wake up when the bell rings, you go to bed when the lights are off, into this phase where you choose your classes and you decide whether or not you want to go to class, and then you have a lot of free time to do different things. It's two different stages of life that today people just jump from stage 1 to stage 10. I had the opportunity to have 2 years where there were no expectations, as it were, on how I am to arrange my life or organize my life. And it's during that period that I discovered code and design. So when I did, I guess one of my things about my personality is that if I take on something, I will see it through to the end, and I will try and be the best at it. So it doesn't always work because, growing up, so I grew up in Eldoret, and I was a fairly short kid. I think I was among the shortest people in class. And so that, I don't know, for someone who was aspirational but didn't know they were aspirational, it's almost like, okay, there's only so many ways that you can shine, and one of them is academics. So it was like, okay, none of the girls are interested in me. Yeah, I can't make it to the basketball team. I can't play football as well as these other guys who play, without shoes, and they're really good at it. So there weren't so many things that I could do well.
So you had a narrow option.
Yeah, I needed to stand out somehow, and the one place where I shone was, we will meet at the exams.
At the end of term.
Yeah, and I, when
you fill out the report card.
When you're about to go home, and the top 10 are doing the sort of round of honor, I'm gonna be there, and you're gonna see me. So there was that, and then also I found that I could sketch really easily, and so it was easy for me to sort of express ideas through sketching, whether that was sketching
people. That flexi wrist.
Yes.
I didn't have a flexi wrist at all. So I always admired people like that. I was like, man, what is this thing? It's so cool.
And so again, like I was saying, it doesn't always work out. So when I went to high school, for some reason, I don't know whether it's the beans or what, but I had a growth spurt all of a sudden.
It's like very nice.
Yeah. And so it was like, okay, I'm still good at this class thing, but at the same time, like, I can show up.
My shoulders, like, I can.
Yeah. I
can walk in a room.
I have presence a little bit.
That's cool.
And so I tried out a few other things. I tried to now get on the basketball team. I did my absolute best, but the farthest I ever went was Team B, which wasn't good enough. And then I tried football a little bit. I think I have really good reflexes.
So you goalkeeper or what?
Yeah, so I was the goalkeeper.
There you go.
Totally. But even then, like, I was in Mangu, and basketball and rugby were the big things.
Yeah.
And then maybe swimming a little bit, because I think almost the prettiest ladies were all in swimming teams, so it was really competitive. So it's almost like guys who had been swimming for 5-10 years were way better than me.
Of course, yeah.
Couldn't for the life of me get myself to do a butterfly.
You were trying to start 3 different sports
at
a late stage in life, man.
So it didn't work out. But so after high school, when I discovered this thing called code, and actually it came about really weirdly, because I did Microsoft Access, which is the usual part of the Microsoft packages that you do. I don't know whether people still do that stuff nowadays.
Where did you do them? Where
just in Eldoret.
Oh, okay.
There's some college in town that did that stuff.
Okay.
So when you do Microsoft Word, then Excel, then Access is kind of like the last one, because it's perceived to be the most complex.
Yeah.
And I did it so well. I even made an interface for it such that it's almost like you are interacting with the interface instead of the database fields. And the lecturer was like, whoa, this is insane. We should do business. Like, I can get clients, because this is really good. How did you do this, man?
You saw a diamond in the rough, so to speak. Yeah.
Then someone else looked at it and they were like, this thing you're doing, I think you should look at web design. I was like, oh, okay, what's web design? Then I learned, actually this thing that, I did on a Microsoft program, I could do it on the web and it would be accessible anywhere. That's where kind of my interest in web design got picked. And then because I became aware of that field, again, killer instinct kicked in. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this and do this really well and be the best. And then I was trying to compare at the time how, say, you look at yahoo.com, which is nothing nowadays, but back then it was huge. Like, how do you get from yahoo.com to .go.ke websites? Because it's like, these guys are paying tens of millions of shillings for these websites. They look really bad. Why is it that no one here can do anything like this? And so, like, one of the principles
you
of my
saw
life
the gap like right away. You were like,
Yeah.
why? I'm comparing with the best, and I'm looking at what's available here, and it's like
why
what's
can't we do this?
Deal? Yeah.
And then just a principle of my life is I hate black boxes. Most of the time I try and understand how things work fundamentally at a low level, so that I can either optimize them or use them in the best way possible, or even change them and make them better. And that's the journey began. And so Skyline Design was just, actually the way the name came about was just, I was just looking for something that rhymed with design. So it's Skyline Design. Okay, Skyline Design it is.
It's a cool name, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then I met my co-founders around 2012. So this was 2008. I went through this sort of initial growth phase where you're sort of writing and people are discovering what your capabilities are, but the more they give you work and you're working alone, the more you face this challenge of, and it happens with anything that has creativity and technology merged together. It's like, if you can't get beyond the creative phase where the customer or the client loves what they're looking at, they don't care about eventually how it works. And so if you have a fixed timeline, you always are getting more and more stressed that you are not going to be able to meet your deadlines. And so the first co-founder that I met has a Midas touch when it comes to design, and so he sort of took away that responsibility from me, and I always knew that he could deliver. And then couple of Years later, I met another guy who is better than me at writing back-end code, and so he took that away from my docket as well. So David Kuria was the design creative director, and then Brian Wangila was the back-end guy, and so that trio has remained to date.
The core of Skyline.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Look, I love the way you've even just broken it down, the different skill sets, right, that you guys bring to make this thing work.
Yeah.
A lot of times people may misunderestimate that in terms of, when you're looking at people getting into technology, entrepreneurship, trying to build something in this space, right? We come from a society where people have had business partners by convenience, right? It's a friend somebody you know from before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, technology, or fortunately, however you want to slice that, requires skill sets, right? Yes. It requires demonstrable capabilities. So you can't just get into business with anybody. You've got to be able to kind of cover some of your gaps.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
And you even sort of earn your respect by displaying your skills in real life situations. So if you just show up and you're talking about all the cool frameworks, no one cares about it. But if you say, hey, this is how I leveraged at the time, those CodeIgniter or something like, or Laravel, like this is how I got it to do what I needed it to do. You sort of gain the respect of the community, such that now when you're coming on board from a business point of view, it's not just, we need someone to put up on the website as a co-founder so we look like we're big. It's like, no, you're a soldier in the trenches with everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys kind of met. So how did that come together? So first of all, David Kuria, you bumped into each other, and then by that time, had you launched Skyline? Or?
Yeah, so Skyline was registered as a business in 2008 for the mere reason that we needed to be able to bank checks. So sometimes
pretty important reason.
Yeah. So there's certain amount of money that if you start focusing on doing really professional work, there's certain amounts of money that begin to come in where people don't want to pay you cash.
Right.
It's written as a check. So it was just a logical next step. It's like, okay, secure a business so that you can open a sole proprietorship bank account with it, which is what happened. But then the more I did it, and then I bumped into David Kuria, and we were just taking a look at what people were putting out there. I don't want to name particular names, but we all know the sort of web design firms that were there around the time, the .Savis, and Three Mice and companies like those, and we're like, okay, we could
take this
totally run these guys out of town,
I love the confidence. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're just like, why don't we register a limited company? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, and then so in 2012 was when the company became incorporated, but kept the same name.
And so now, starting from the two of you, and then you brought on what's his name?
Brian Wangila.
So the three of you kind of became that, the three musketeers, so to speak.
Yes.
And then now you have 40, 50.
49 as of now, 49 team members, with about, let me not break it down too much, but it's a blend of permanent staff who are the majority, and then consultants who are dedicated full-time to client projects.
Got it.
Yeah.
So almost like a pass-through relationship where you guys...
Yeah, it's almost like the difficulty with technology in Kenya is not that there aren't amazing people, it's that there aren't amazing, reliable people. So even when people are really good at a particular skill set, most of the time you find that there's very few of them that have a good reputation, and those who do are already scooped up by big companies. So the challenge for clients that want to innovate with technology for the next 10 to 20 years is that they're not able to hire every single person, because hiring is really expensive. The cost for, there's companies, even startups that do it here, the average cost for getting talent is like $1,000 per person. And then you bring them on board, then our taxes are really high, and you have to pay them benefits, and insurance and things like that. It's such a huge risk for companies that are not primarily technology focused, but they know that the next level must include technology.
Yeah. It's too big it's too high it's too steep a climb.
Yeah.
To go from, okay, this is what I do, this is the type of workforce I have, I understand the unit economics of this, a personnel kind of capacity that I operate with.
Yes.
Now you're going into a complete different dimension where it's a whole new world.
Yes.
And you can't stomach that in a sense.
Yes. And especially where, talent can be, poached really easily. Like to take up that cost as a company where technology is not core to your business, but it needs to become. It's a high cost. And so what we enable our customers and clients to do is to trust us because they know us and they know we have a reputation that we must keep. To enable them to find the talent because we are embedded in the culture, we know people.
So you're filtering
yes.
mechanisms.
So it's a lot easier for them to, for example, give out a short-term, say 3 to 6 month contract to build a prototype that will enhance their business in a certain way, and for them to do it through us such that we use our networks and sometimes even the existing consultants that are already on the team to help them do that without the sort of onboarding and offboarding costs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So in essence, you're basically, for want of a better, this is nothing, I guess, new in a sense, right? If you look at developed business ecosystems, you have IBM for the longest time had a massive consulting arm. I think that's probably one of, most recently, their most profitable side of their business. And then you have Accenture, obviously, that built a massive, basically they're a consulting company, right? And then you have also locally, we have a few folks who may not necessarily be in tech directly. They might be more market research kind of thing. I forget who.
You have the big four, the Deloittes, the KPMGs, McKinsey's. You have Andela, which is not more research; it's more dev.
Yeah.
But it's essentially that. So I guess the thing that sort of sets us apart is that our founding team is intact and our culture has been intact, and we are very slow to hire because we are literally the same way that people build companies for the long term. We build people for the long term. You see, a company can build for the long term without caring about its people. Because
I'm not sure that's true anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe
the challenge is the gig economy, because what the gig economy has done is that it has commoditized a lot of the manpower that's required for technological work. And there's even certain subsets of people in those fields, developers, designers, that are kind of proud about it. The I Coding Boxers group, which is amazing and which is okay. But my gut feeling is that ultimately people need families. People need to grow old somewhere where their work as it evolves still remains meaningful. There'll always be someone who can work twice the number of hours at half the price. There's always some kid from university that just needs Wi-Fi and hot chocolate, and they'll code throughout the night. When you're turning 30, 35, 40, you can't compete with that guy anymore. And so if you take the glamour and the hype of the gig economy, a time will come when you'll pay the price, because you'll realize that you didn't build any long-lasting relationships with either mentors or companies, or with co-workers or peers in your field, and there will always be someone who can do it better than you.
Oh yeah, you're basically working yourself out of over almost like a time in your life where you can do something, but you're not planning strategically forward. Now, this is an interesting point you bring, because obviously you deal very much on the front lines of personnel and people and talent, right? That's kind of your business. So what are the trends that you've seen? I think you're alluding to it here, where you have people who eschew working at a company to wearing boxers and coding all night long as an independent gigist type of situation.
Yeah.
Is that the tension in the ecosystem? Is that what you see? Is that where the competition lies for you in terms of this, I want to be independent and do my thing, and I don't want to work at a kind of like a set kind of environment company? Is that a problem, or how do you think about that? Because you obviously brought it up.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you can continue thinking about that.
Yeah, it's because it's not an easy question to answer because ecosystems are incredibly complex and people's motivations are even more complex. Just one person's brain has more conundrums than the ecosystem that they find themselves in, and then the ecosystem is a bunch of brains together that are all kind of trying to figure out life. So I don't have one answer.
But generally, if you're to say, what do the trends fall? What do people end up doing or choosing to do? How do people arrange themselves professionally, especially in the tech space, coders, developers, that whole set? What are the options they have?
Yeah.
Or how do they see them, right?
I think the way I see it at the moment is that we are sort of at a watershed moment where previously, which is what made the iHubs and the NiLabs really popular 5 years ago, was that because of the internet, people who are in pockets scattered, sort of lone ranger developers all of a sudden realize that, hey, there's someone who's as passionate about JavaScript as I am,
so
and they're just across town, and so it sort of became this, and I'm really grateful for these sort of co-working spaces that began to pop up, with iHub being the grandfather of them all. It created a physical space for what was happening virtually to happen.
Right.
And so what that did was that people were still espousing the idea of freelancing, but they could now sort of use each other to help each other get ahead quicker. Because now if you couldn't figure out how to move from ECMAScript 4.5 to the next one, if someone else had already done it, you could literally just walk over to their table and be like, hey how did you do this? But what's happening at the moment is that a lot of large companies are coming in and they know that they need to use local talent as well. And what's beginning to happen is that the developer role is starting to become more crystallized. So initially it was just, I am a coder. And that was
front end, back end, web.
I code. So there were no distinctions about it. It's like, okay, you needed to do this. Fine, I'll Google it for the next 2 days and Stack Overflow, and I'll kind of hack it together. So even from, say, the customer's point of view, they couldn't care less,
right,
like what kind of a coder you are.
It's
just like, can you write code? Yeah, let's do this. Here's the contract. Do it. But right now, you have Microsoft here. You have Google, which has been around for a while, not necessarily engaging developers too much, but they do a lot of training. Right. They do a lot of training as well, and just empowering the local developer community. You now have Facebook here with Facebook developer groups. Amazon is setting up shop. And even beyond the normal technology companies, you have other sort of social enterprise sort of startups, organizations, huge organizations, not just startups, that are coming in to sort of empower young people to leverage technology to solve the world's problems. And they know from the context that they've come from, that if you're going to actually do a product right, you will need UX, you'll need a front-end developer, you need a back-end developer, even front-end developer, there's like front-end UI only, there's front-end JavaScript. So it's like, so what's happening is that talent is being sort of pulled towards these big organizations, and as that happens, because in those big organizations you have to exist within that framework, the people who aspire to get to that level begin to align themselves alongst those.
So it's a signal that they're seeing.
Yes.
Got it. Which I think is awesome, because in essence, it's about finding an area of focus niche where you can really be good.
Yes.
Because you cannot be all things to everything, right? You can't be how do they say? You can't be jack of all trades. Yeah. You got to be a master of something. Yeah. And to me, that's a signal of a maturing ecosystem. I'm actually really excited about that.
Yeah.
You know, because you can find the best of breed, and I think it will be the natural consequence of that is just everybody will have high standards and expectations, right? Because if you're working somewhere and you're focusing on a specific thing and you've gotten really good. Why would you would not be interested in working with somebody who's not equally as good at what they do?
Yes.
Right. So I think that's
you have to trust that, you know, just like in an army, that, you know, whoever has your six actually knows what they're doing.
Totally.
Otherwise it doesn't function.
Right. So that bodes well for the future of the ecosystem. So we talked also about kind of like your co-founders and how you guys I guess you guys just bumped into each other. This is also a very important thing in terms of values alignment.
Yeah.
And how did that come? Did you guys sit down one day and discuss these are my values or your values, or how did those evolve? Or tell me about that, how that came about.
The way it happened was more like dating than sort of business partnership. I'm not gay, that's not what I'm implying, but
I don't think anybody took it that way.
But what I mean is that we were kindred spirit, right? So like David Kuria, we met at a Bible study actually. I didn't even know what he did for several months. But he was the kind of guy that, you know, the way he thought about life, the things he considered important were the same things that I felt. And then, you know, like we still used to use cyber cafes back in those days. There was one big one, I think, on the 7th floor of Norwich Union. There was one on 2nd floor and then another one, I think, on 7th. So this time I went to the 2nd floor one, and right there at the back, who do I find? David Kuria. And I look at what he's doing, and he had his sort of design portfolio open, and I was like, dude, is that your work? And then he was like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I've done for a couple of years now. I was like, this is insane. This is so good. Like, when I get web projects, can I be letting you do the design? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do business. And so through that, something more than just an acquaintance developed. It became a friendship, and right now he's like, I have 3 best friends and he's one of them. And it just made sense that the things that we considered important were similar. And then same thing with Brian Wangila. So Wangila, I was looking for developers at the time, and I found that he had written an article. This was back in like 2009, 2010, 2011. And he'd actually written a tutorial on how to set up your development sort of workspace, leveraging Dropbox, which was fairly new at the time. And he'd sort of written about how you could use that setup to basically continue your development work anywhere. So this was before GitHub and version control were huge.
Damn.
I was like, dude, is this guy Kenyan? He wrote this, because the only articles you would find back then were, you know, the Tats Plus and Smashing Magazine and Vandelay Design. I was like, dude, this guy wrote an article. This is insane. Who's this guy?
How did you come across the article? Where did you find it?
I was just Googling.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I found it. And then there was a platform called Forest back then that was for sort of creatives and developers. And the only other there were two other Kenyans on it. One was Brian Wangila and another guy called Stephen Gasheru, who's now working for Brick as their one of their front-end developers. I was like, dude, in the whole of this platform, there's only 3 Kenyans, me, Wangila, and this other guy. So I was like, okay, this guy is definitely on my radar now. And then I spoke at the first WordCamp, which is a WordPress event. It was the first WordCamp in Kenya, and I was a speaker. That's where I met Eric Hassman, because he liked my talk, and we kind of got to talk afterwards. And then that's where I also bumped into Wangila, and I was like, oh, okay, that's you, good stuff. So I met him after the event, and I was just like, okay, so this is who we are. We're just a 2-man team right now. We think you should join the team. What do you think? He was on board, and he became our co-founder. So I think the fact that he had that work ethic where he could go beyond what's expected, he was giving back to the community, which he didn't owe the community anything, but there he was writing and putting it out there, and his work ethic was the same, his outlook on life was the same. And to be quite honest, it's been fairly difficult since that time to find people like that. But now we as you know, and I don't know whether we'll talk about it or not, we've kind of spun off sister companies of Skyline, because we realize that there may not be like-minded people in our own field, but there are like-minded people who are in our same age group, who are in related fields, but who may not be able to start off on their own, but they could leverage the networks and the brand that we already have. So it just happened that it's almost like we individually each had a true north,
right?
And just by coming into each other's sort of magnetic zones, we found that we were aligned.
Right. Man, it's like a homing device.
Yeah.
It's like excellence. Real recognize real, as they say in hip hop.
Totally.
Man, that's I love that, because if you look at 10 years from now, people will look back, and it is the people who drive this ecosystem forward and do amazing things. They have a certain kind of ethos.
Yes.
They have a certain kind of staying power.
Yeah.
They have a certain set of values that are timeless. And when they find each other, they do amazing things like you guys are doing right now.
Thanks.
And for some reason, it's like, and I always look at the potential is so huge, because like you said, there's talent, but there are also people who don't have that other critical thing, which is integrity, or which is a reputation, right? That right there is losing. When people don't understand, especially in a technology-driven ecosystem, the power of a good reputation and doing good work and being good for your word, it is because the thing about, so I grew up as a professional in Silicon Valley, and I lived this out, where you didn't know who you would need to actually vouch for you, right? If you're going to interview somewhere, or which new company is going to be blowing up. And so if you had a bad reputation, a year from now or 2 years from now, Slack could be on the up and to the right, and you had somebody who joined Slack, and you were like, oh shit, that person knows me, but you don't have a good reputation with them or whatever. So we're going to see this happening in our ecosystem, and people need to start to understand, because that's how you lose massive opportunity because of your reputation. Because things move so fast in technology, and it's such a sticky community, and it's so transparent, right? So I'm really excited about the opportunity, but I still feel like, man, like people need to kind of get this integrity thing right. You know? What do you think?
Totally. I mean, it's a huge problem, and to be honest, I don't know who's in charge of fixing it, but it needs to be fixed.
It fixes itself. So let me tell you how it fixes itself. So there's two ways I think about it. Like now we're talking about it right now, right? So part of why we do this podcast, part of why Impact Africa Network exists, one of our core elements is to create or be part of instantiating a culture of high performance, high integrity, and high quality. That's why I talk about it all the time. Because part of it is talking about it, calling it out, and all that stuff. And then people start listening, and they're like, shit, this is some real stuff. You can't hide behind rocks anymore, right? Because it is what it is. It's a different time. So that's one. The other one is just people hitting the wall, right? People missing out on opportunities. People, their reputation kind of preceding them, so to speak, and them missing out on stuff, right?
Yeah.
There are some people right now, for example, I've interacted with, and I'm just like, yeah, you're done. We're done. It's not happening anymore. And so then I meet somebody like you, and I'm like, we're going to be friends for a long time. We're going to do things.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely talking about it sort of puts people on display and sort of shows the real results of having integrity. I think my challenge is that it's really hard to change people, and I think I've mentioned this to you before. Like it's really hard.
You can't teach integrity,
and especially where, you know, if you're meeting someone who's out of university, they are 24, 25 years old. If that person has not had integrity for 25 years of their life, I don't know how many, forgive me for saying this, podcast episodes can convince them
that to change their ways.
That
they've been going to church and the pastor ain't worked on them.
And it's sort of systemic, because, and this is the huge battle we're fighting on a much larger scale, not just in the ecosystem, but in the country.
The ecosystem is a microcosm of the thing.
Yeah, because now, you know, a child walks out going to school. A bunch of Land Rovers drive past him, and that's the governor, who the previous night, by the way, sent their mom 2,000 shillings via M-Pesa, because they are that kind of governor. Like, they just give money to their people instead of fixing systemic issues. They give out money.
They're buying votes early.
That kid wants to be that governor.
It's like the yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what I can relate it to is kids who grew up in the ghetto, in the hood, right?
Yeah.
In the States, and they see the drug dealers, and that's what it used to be like, and it's still the same way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you emulate where you think status. Human beings are status-seeking creatures, right?
Yeah.
So you say, okay, what's the shortest path between me and, like you were saying, you realize it wasn't basketball for you. It was so it's the same thing. But here's how I see what you're saying too, and I struggle with this a lot. But I think human beings. Okay, so for example, because tech moves so fast and opportunity shifts, right? Within 10 years, you can actually see a company go from, the timeline has shifted, has shrunk.
Yeah.
You see, we've come from a society where things didn't change fast at all. You were born in a certain way, and M1, for example, was the president forever.
Yeah.
Right? Things didn't change. Over here now, you can find somebody coming in and, you know, they can enter the ecosystem right now. In 5 years, they have the fastest growing company, or they're part of that.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So things change fast enough to where that feedback loop is quick enough to where people are forced to recalibrate, right, themselves, right? I think that, to me, I think it's the speed of that iteration and the shift of opportunity, and we haven't seen it yet. Let me tell you the truth. We haven't seen it. We're starting to kind of, you're starting to kind of smell it. Like, look at yourself, right? You can see it happening, but at the point where you'll see it, when you see it like at scale, or when it's completely, you've seen it happen to somebody who came in and did something multiple times, or on their way there, something changes.
Yeah.
Right, and it's why maybe that's why it's a little bit challenging for you to be able to kind of say like, how. Of course, you're not going to change everybody, right? But I think you need. I'm talking about the tech ecosystem, the broader country, that whole thing. If you see, the people who are in tech are the ones who are going to be the business leaders of tomorrow. If those people have good integrity and good values, and they're saying the right things on the right platforms, they can counterbalance that narrative. Because who else is who? Right now, it's all political. I mean, how do you make it now?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think the thing that I struggle with is that there's two ways to make money with technology. One is that you build a product that people will buy as the product itself, and then you build a product for someone else, or even if you're not building it for someone else, you're being funded by someone else. So technology is just sort of an enabler that allows value to be created, but you're living in an ecosystem where the money is not coming from tech people. If you create a product that solves an enterprise problem, you will be paid by the enterprises. If you're building for government to make government services better, it's the government that pays you. Now, if those people have too much of a stake in the way that the technology is built, then it doesn't matter whether the technology people have integrity. What's gonna matter is if we don't get this deal, we are sending people home next month, and the person that's giving us the money wants things done this way. So it's again, it's messy.
It's a tyranny.
It's
a tyranny of the big customer, so to speak. Right?
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, right? So that's almost kind of like an artifact of the market you're operating in.
Yes.
And part of that is the market operating is relatively small, right? I mean, we have a country of 55 million people. The government is the biggest business around, right? And then there's a few big companies, right? I think also the benefit of technology is it's very porous, right? It doesn't respect borders. It doesn't respect kind of all those things that might keep other non-tech businesses grounded, right? Because of just what they are.
Yeah.
You see, and I understand where you're coming from, because in essence, you're coming from a world where, and that's the challenge of being in business, right? You're coming from a world where you gotta keep your customers to keep your people, because you don't have a product that's kind of, the equilibrium hasn't, right? But my point is, you're also building product, right? You're also building your own IP, right? So at some point, you can maybe see yourself freeing yourself from that tyranny of the big customer. Do you think that is in your future, potentially?
Yes, but only where the recurrent revenue is enough to keep the innovation going and to keep the scale going up. Because the moment you take on, and again, it's not that I am against venture capital or against external investors, but they always come with a board seat. They always come with a signature. They always come with voting power. And if those people are beholden to bigger people that you don't know about, something that is very good quickly turns sour. So again, it's like a catch-22, because it's very hard to scale a company only on recurrent revenue.
Because you need the funding to buy the next phase of growth.
And yet the recurrent revenue is the only thing that will ensure that you maintain your integrity.
So what are you saying? What's the conclusion?
I'm saying that I admire the intentions of the Impact Africa Network. I admire the intentions of guys who are trying to change the ecosystem and the narrative. I think I am bordering on pessimism, just so that when things
to self-preservation
bad, it allows me to have my guard up externally all the time. I'm soft on the inside. I'm jelly, but I have a very hard shell externally. So the people that are in my inner circle, I will go to the moon and back for them. But I'm very guarded about external interests. And so all I'm saying is that to change the ecosystem is really hard. It's really hard. It must be done. This is one of the ways to do it. But if we fell flat on our faces and failed miserably, I also wouldn't be surprised.
This is so interesting. I think the human endeavor, humanity, right, is always seeking to improve its lot, I think, right? The directionality of the human kind of like, for want of a better term, pursuit has been towards progress, I would say, and improvement. Sometimes it seems like it's not, because sometimes it's difficult to see, right? Because the timelines are so long, right? Especially, the only reason I'm optimistic is because of the nature of innovation and technology, the power of it.
Yeah.
It is a complete game changer in a ways that people don't understand. Let me just give you an example, right? The classic canonical one, right, is M-Pesa, right? M-Pesa, the power of that thing, in terms of just moving money from Nairobi to Shags or that type of thing, is very, very powerful. I mean, I'm not even sure we've done the research to understand what the social impact, right, how it has shaped how people now relate or what people can do or even how families organize.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not necessarily understood that in a real sense. You know, maybe I'll do some Googling and see the social impacts of something like M-Pesa, which has broken the need, the speed by which money can move or accelerated it. So what that means is that technology has these other externality effects that you can't see until they are apparent in a very, that's one thing. Then the other thing, you know, the nature of it is it actually, it does not serve the incumbents very well.
In what sense?
In the sense that it's a disruptive thing. Right? So if you look at the people who get technology, they're usually outside the status quo. They're usually outside the incumbent scenario, right? And they bring this new way of thinking and they subvert what's already there, right? And the thing is, you cannot hold back progress. Okay? So what's going to happen is like you're trying to hold back a wave, right? Blockchain, for example. What impacts will that have? We don't know yet. AI. What will that have? To be fair, we don't know yet. But I can guarantee you this. They are going to have massive impacts that you and I right now cannot see in terms of the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
How we organize ourselves social, economic, politically. That's why for me, I'm hopeful. It's because we can't see around the corner. But I have lived long enough in the technology ecosystem to see a thing where people are saying, this cloud thing, these are the respected IT people in big companies were saying in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Cloud? What? Nobody no self-respecting CISO would put their data in the cloud, right? When I left San Francisco, when I left the Bay Area, Salesforce, which was being poo-pooed at the time, had built the tallest building in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. And when they were coming out of, when they were a startup, 2004, 2005, that's what people were saying. You see, once you've seen, now the other thing, Facebook, social media, flipped the election. We're dealing with the fallout of all that right now in the States and other geos.
Yeah.
And these are almost very kind of like what we're looking at now. These are old school technologies. 10, 15 years from now, we'll look at these things and be like, dude, those were kind of Stone Age things. Sindio?
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is you have to look at, and the other thing that I believe in, and I'll turn it over to you here, is we have an emergent demographic dividend. The bulk of population is young, and it's coming onto the stage at the same time as these technologies are coming on. What does that mean? What does that mean?
The weird thing is that even in our previous elections, the young people were the majority, and look at the crop of leaders that we got. Like it's something that will take time.
It will take time, no question about it.
And yes, in one sense, you're very right in terms of the technology is a disruptor, and it will cause the incumbents to rethink, and it might even change the whole playing field for them. The thing that is critical at this point is that those people that are incumbents, especially when you refer to governments, they still wield the power to kill things in their early stages where they perceive it as a threat.
So let me paint you a scenario.
Yeah.
In some cases, they will not see the threat coming.
It's true, but have you wondered why, like the PR and marketing team for our current government is by and large young people? So the people who are smart about this, the guys who are consolidating markets right now, it's not them who are doing it. they're hiring the young best people to do it.
So let me tell you how I see the change happening.
Yeah.
10, 15 years from now, right? People like you build companies that scale, that take over markets. They become the captains of industry, right? People are building companies right now. And these things are going to become those things. And once people are financially independent, then they've done it on their own, and they've done it in a certain period of time, and they have developed that muscle. It's like those people will be a cohort. They'll be a group, right? They'll have power. You know, I've heard smart people say that the next age is going to be the age of the business leader. It's not going to be the age of the political leader. And I can tell you, for example, if you look at where people spend most of their time is this cell phone, this mobile phone. We have not yet maximized its potential. Right? That's why they shut down WhatsApp in those regimes where, you know what I'm saying? Because it's this thing where right now, will they pull back the ability of mobile that's got 98% penetration? You know, all I'm saying is the mechanics of control the cat's out of the bag, I think, in a lot of ways. And it's continuing to, the systems, just mark my words, what I'm saying is they may not be able to control things going forward. And they may even take some things on that will turn out to be detrimental to them. These people who want to create central control. I don't know. I'm optimistic. I choose to be optimistic, but I could be completely wrong. I mean,
I think the thing that I have come to see is that human beings are tribal, and human beings love politics. Like, even it's almost like people leave their brains at home when it comes to politics and to religion. Like, I'm a Christian myself, but 90% of what purports to be Christianity in this country is not Christianity. Like, you're just being ripped off all the time, every Sunday. And yet, it's doctors who are in there, it's scientists who are in there, it's lecturers at universities, it's university students. But like, what's wrong with you?
But you see, the thing is this: if you look at the Western world, the church has receded completely. The church is not what it used to be, right? It's shrinking.
True.
It's disappearing. Now, you could look at that and say, how does that relate to us?
And yet, Trump is president. This is what I'm saying. It's like, even with all the with all the knowledge,
so let's focus on
the tech.
So you're not wrong in the sense that human beings are tribal.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about first is economic development first. True. And I'm focused on economic development.
This was just a comment in terms of that I don't think the politician will lose their role, because no matter what the economics are, people want to be led. People want to be told what to do. People want to be told what their destiny is. That is how the world
human beings operate.
Yeah.
You're probably right. The question is this, is if you, in Africa, that's the first thing we need to do. I don't mind having a quote-unquote dictator as long as people's lives are improving. I'll sign up for that China deal anytime. You know what I'm saying? Like, as in, not China coming to take our stuff. What they did for their people, in a sense. Of course, it's a complicated story.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about, for me, it's progress.
Yeah.
Politics is almost kind of like a thing on the side. It's like it's a parallel thing. Of course, it dictates a lot of what happens in reality. But to the extent that it can be benign, or it can be like, just as long as people's lives are improving and economic development is happening, hey, dude, I mean, politics?
Yeah. I think my view of the way everything needs to fit together in terms of politics, governance, culture, religion, and all of it. I don't know if you've seen, it's actually just a thought that occurred to me. This movie, A Beautiful Mind. What's his name? Russell. I'm forgetting the name of the actor, but he's really good, and he portrays, the Nobel laureate, genius mathematician. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but
I saw it a long time ago, and I never really got into it like that.
Yeah, there's this scene where, like, he's a proper mathematician, and he's in a bar with his friends, and a bunch of pretty ladies walk in with a particular one that he kind of liked.
Yes.
And he was like, he started doing the math in his head. He was like, group dynamics. How do we play out this scenario in a way that ends up being successful? And he started thinking, and he was like, okay, if I go straight for the main lady, she's gonna say no because I ignored her friends who are not as pretty as her, but they are her friends, so she'll say no for their sake. If I approach the other ladies, then it's like, what? How could you possibly do that?
I'm the queen bee.
Yeah, and then it clicked in his mind that his friends could simultaneously approach the other ladies and take them away from the one. It's a divide and conquer thing. Yes, and then he would come in and talk to that lady, and that's the way it played out.
That's wingman shit.
And he said,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and he said that the way for you to have a net positive effect in group dynamics is where it isn't that every single person does what's best for themselves. It's that every person does what's best for themselves and the group. Which means if technology is going to solve this problem, if I were to apply it in this sense that, say for example, assume that mathematics was the technology in that situation, you have different players who, there's incumbents in there's people that, kind of control the crowd, there's others who will turn you away if you don't talk to the main person. The way technology has to function, which is again really hard to do, is that every person acts for what's best, not just for themselves, but for the group, which also includes the incumbents. And if that doesn't happen, it won't happen.
So you're trying to say that our incumbents, right, and I'm talking more on the business side right now, are more powerful than progress, that they will kill progress, or it will have to come from them in a sense.
Yeah, well, it will have to involve them some way, somehow. It's,
and I'm not saying it's one or the other.
Yeah.
I think the way I see it is like some will, some won't. I think you have to be smart about how you do things.
Yeah.
You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to look at every situation is unique and different. What is needed here, you do. You operate in a certain way. My whole hope is that because we have a young, emerging population and we have these new kind of, I guess we have technology that is going to reshape how we do things, how we build companies, what will survive, what will be relevant, what will be irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
And it will, in a very real sense, shift value, right? I mean, newspapers are dying right now, right? They've been, so who's going to take over that space?
The way I see it is not that value will shift, but rather that new value will be created that will make the present value dwarf in comparison.
But whoever owns that though? Who's going to own that?
The people that are thinking on their feet, and those are not the incumbents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my point. So if you have those people who build those new megaphones or those new platforms or whatever they are that have influence, power, or whatever, my hope is that those people can come from a way of thinking that is progressive, that is inclusive, that is not full of what we are familiar with.
Yeah.
That's the way I see a chance to create some change where people are not co-opted into the status quo and taught this is how you gotta behave if you want to survive and live and have what you're looking for.
Yeah.
If people have built their own things outside of the status quo, then they're independent.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Well, short of you having a code of conduct that those people need to sign, like it's
So do you think
it's so much in flux. It's almost like you can never pause time and be like, okay, we've done it. Because even those people could flip. Those people could change.
You're not optimistic about our future, bro.
I'm just realistic. I know that the world is messy. I know that by and large, human beings want to move forward. But again, there's this book about the laws of human stupidity, and one of the laws is that non-stupid people always underestimate the stupidity of stupid people, and stupid people cut across every demographic. And stupid people do what's bad for other people and sometimes even for themselves. Like
that's the definition of
so bad. Yeah. And it's everywhere. So I'm just like
yo man,
it's herding baboons. Like it's so hard. It's so hard to do it.
Man, I need to get you. I need to send you some YouTube videos from Sadhguru. Man. There's this guy called Sadhguru. You know what Sadhguru?
No.
So Sadhguru is actually an amazing. He's a mystic. He's a yogi.
Yeah.
And this dude right here, he is single-handedly changing the destiny of India, right? Or at least angling it in the right direction. I mean, I'm talking about a place of 1.2 billion people.
In what measurable sense?
I'll send you the videos.
Okay.
You watch what this guy is doing, and then we'll go from there. Okay. You need some Sadhguru in your life.
I need to hear what
hey man, listen, you and I can philosophize all day long. I'm on the side of optimism. Listen, but at the same time, I'm like, shit, you gotta believe in something.
Yeah.
Right? Because and not just air, right? But you gotta say this plus this maybe equals to, that, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we didn't even go into your business and all that stuff.
It's cool. It's cool.
You have to come for part 2 so we can go into mechanics of how you guys have set up and what you're doing. And,
sure.
Because I think that's super valuable.
Cool.
But we're at the end of our session today.
No, that felt too short.
Thanks for coming through. And everybody, that's the end of the podcast for this week. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.